I'd like to call this Bristol Borough Council work session to order of July 6th at 7:05. Okay. Merle, you here for Herbie or?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start with you.
Okay. Herbs has 4 items he'd like to bring before council. The first one is that all borough fire companies responded to the numerous brush fires that they had along the south side of the railroad embankment from the Canal Lagoon to Otter Creek. And despite Amtrak's program of removing the vegetation from the embankments, which was greatly reduced the fire load, extensive efforts by firefighters were still required in handling of the fires. Without the vegetation removal of the program, the fires may have been that much more significant of an impact on the area. Probable cause was sparks from the train, and the fires extended from Edgeley to Croydon, and there were no injuries. All firefighters from Bristol Borough will be participating in a planned training exercise tomorrow evening at the old Warren Snyder School. A county fire school instructor will provide the training, and the training evolutions may be reduced or eliminated as a result of the extreme heat that we're currently in. Adequate medical personnel will be on location for the firefighters. The third one is Herb and the fire board are continuing to work on the November 2010 SEPTA mass casualty drill that will take place in the siding along the Hunter Road facility by the lumber yards up there. And the last thing is the mapping project has finally been completed. All requested maps have been provided on CDs to the fire companies, and the mapping program was funded by the borough. The maps are linked to the various firebox numbers for quick identification. The general maps show the streets, the address blocks, the hydrants, and the size of the mains that are feeding the hydrants, which is very important. There's high hazard maps for the Grundy Towers, Warren Snyder, the New School, St. Mark's, and Bristol High School. The hazard maps provide floor layouts. There's also aerial photo maps which show actual rooftops of the building, trees, and other obstructions, like Columbia Lighting, large building, and down in the Third Ward Industrial Park.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Merle? Thanks, Merle. Chief.
I applied for a grant for the purchase of 2 portable breath testing units. We utilize them in the field for DUI enforcement and also for underage drinking investigations. Our officers covered the Celtic Festival 2 weekends ago without any incidents. We had an officer attend the Community Day information event at Spotlight Holy Temple a few weekends ago, and we gave out public relations information and we answered all questions that were asked of the officer stationed for several hours at that event. Sergeant Morris recently completed a school for courtroom testimony regarding latent fingerprints. He said it was a very valuable class. Many resources and contacts were made, which will be very rewarding to us in the future regarding investigations of fingerprints. And our next event coming up is the Puerto Rican Day Festival, scheduled for July 25th. And the police department is also involved in the mass casualty event in November.
Arnie, I have a couple things. One, I know we took the initiative to go out and purchase vehicles, and some people felt it wasn't necessary at the time we were buying vehicles. But over the last week or two, I think 3 of our vehicles were in accidents. One was totaled again. So we must have totaled 3 cars in the last, I think, year or 2. But I think if this council wasn't proactive in purchasing these cars and keeping up with the fleet, basically we would have to go borrow police cars from another township to put cops on the street, or we wouldn't have any cars. With 3 cars there, 4 cars down, at one time, I think we only had 4 or 5 cars. So I just want to thank council for being proactive in purchasing these cars and keeping this fleet up, because without it, we would have never been able to patrol our streets without police cars. We would have to either give them bicycles, or like I said before, they could, maybe run with them with the floorboards out. So, how we do it, we ordered another, I seen an email where the manager authorized to order another car to replace the one that was totaled.
Yes, it's in the shop. It may get to us tomorrow or Thursday. All the equipment's has already been taken out of one vehicle, the total vehicle. It's being transferred into the other vehicle, the new one. The lights are being put on.
And the other 2 cars are still in the body shop, or are they on the street?
No, they're back.
They're back. So he turned them around pretty quick for you.
Yes.
Anybody have any questions for the chief? Mr. Lutz?
Were the damage to the car, is it covered by insurance?
Yes.
We still don't get the full value of the,
Not on the total one, no.
not on the total. We lose money on that car. Anything else, Jimmy?
That's all.
Anthony?
Chief, over by the ball field, Jefferson Avenue, I asked last month, have we been checking up, and have we found anything over there? Any citations?
We've been over there quite often. The bike units and the officers are working 3 to 3. That's on their list of places to stop. We've been hitting that area and the tot lots pretty hard recently.
Have
Playgrounds and the tot lots.
you been checking over by the Green Street, 4th Avenue, about illegal cars parked?
4th Avenue Motors,
Yes.
the officers have been on top of that too.
And
Nothing
there?
nothing that's come out that I'm aware of right now.
Thanks.
You have anything for the chief? Robin?
I just want to comment that I noticed that we got $632. It was the high bid for the Crown Victoria and $707 for the other Crown Victoria, so I think that the money for the new car was well spent. If this is the value of those cars, I'm glad our officers aren't driving them.
Yeah, I mean, it shows how poor condition and how much use you got out of that car to get $700 for a vehicle, so. Okay, nobody else has anything for the chief? I'm going to go to public participation. You know what, let me do this Langdon, so we can get that done and we don't hold up your project. Not
Matt
Langdon.
Walters from the Bucks County Planning Commission.
Planning Commission, I'm sorry. I got Langdon as item 2.
Good evening. Here to present you with the update to the borough's open space plan. Met with the committee over 3 times over the past 6 months, and this is the plan that's meant to satisfy the guidelines of the 2007 Municipal Open Space Program. These are the county funds that you're eligible for parks, open space, and some improvement projects. But in order to be eligible for those monies, you have to have an updated plan. Just briefly, the plan takes into account some of the other planning that you've done over the past 10 years. The waterfront revitalization plan, the borough comprehensive plan, the recreation feasibility study and master plan for the borough, and the Delaware Canal daylighting project plan, and also the waterfront master plan. The plan satisfies the 10 elements that are required by the county. Briefly, through the planning process, we identified some future needs and priorities, and I'll just list those real quickly. The first one was to improve and enhance public access to the Delaware River and provide additional waterfront facilities, public facilities for recreation. Also to augment existing park and recreation and open space resources, to preserve, protect, and enhance the borough's vulnerable resources with an emphasis on natural resources, and also to improve the borough's gateway areas through open space acquisitions. And taking into account those 4 identified future needs. There were some high priority projects that were identified. The highest priority being the Bristol Borough waterfront improvements, and this category includes projects that are found in the master waterfront plan that was done by Langen Engineering about a year ago. And some of those improvements include dock facilities, expanded waterfront promenade and wharf, public restroom facilities, a fishing pier, and also improvements to parking. The second project that was identified were enhancements to the Bristol Marsh area, and especially the area around the Public Works yard. Again, there are a couple other projects that were identified. Those were also found in those previous planning efforts. And again, like I said, this is necessary for your eligibility for those county open space funds.
Do you have any questions for Matt, Jimmy, Lorraine, Anthony?
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to thank Matt and the entire committee for helping us through this open space planning, Bucks County Planning Commission. Councilwoman Rodriguez was the chairman. Mrs. Cullen and myself are from council, Mr. Salerno, Mr. Saxon and Mr. Cullen, and Mr. Everett and Mr. Waldron, along with Mr. Dillon. Matt, thank you very much and did a good job. We hope this all get done in the near future.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you.
Leo, you have anything? Robin?
No.
Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to public participation, so I don't hold everybody up. Anybody on this side of the room want to speak? Say your name for the record, so we have it on.
Yes, good evening. My name is Rosara Torres, and I'm here on behalf of the Puerto Rican Culture Association. We are here because, as you well know, this is our second year with our festival, and it's been a little tough for us with the fundraising and all. Everyone knows the economy's been pretty rough. So we're here on behalf of our association requesting some type of support from the borough if possible. And this is our secretary, Karen Rosado. Karen?
I just wanted to say to the community, if they would be kind enough, and if they're able to send donations, that those funds would also be used for the festival. And those donations can be mailed to the Puerto Rican Culture Association of Bucks County, P.O. Box 1035 in Bristol. And if they have any questions, they can contact me. My number is 267-994-0668.
So Karen, what you're saying is, I know you came last year and you and Rosie were here and asked council, I know it was your first year and you wanted to get this festival up and running, and we financially helped you, I think, with $1,000 last year or something.
Correct. Yes.
And you were hoping this year to be basically self-supporting, and it's just not working out for you.
It's been tough. We've definitely done fundraising events all year long, but it's been difficult. Even getting donations from corporations has been a challenge.
Tough economy.
It's affecting everyone.
I'll talk to council this evening before, if you want to wait, we'll discuss it and see if, are you looking for the same thing we gave you last year?
Yes, if you could match that, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Can you repeat your phone number again one more time?
Sure. 267-994-0668.
Thank you.
Karen, how about, you want to repeat if the community wants to send donations again to where?
They can mail it to our P.O. Box right here in Bristol. It's P.O. Box 1035, Bristol, PA. They can put attention Puerto Rican Culture Association or festival
So
donation.
it's P.O. Box 1035,
Correct.
Bristol, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you much.
Anybody on this side of the room would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Liz Fisher. I live at 1102 Wood Street. A couple of nights after I spoke at our last meeting, I was walking my dog on Ratcliffe Street. It was about 11:30 at night, and my sister and I had gotten carried away talking, but I've never been afraid to walk late on the main streets. I got to about St. Mark's Rectory, and right by the driveway, I saw this truck come along and slow down. He turned into the St. Mark's School driveway, made a U-turn, and parked in front of the rectory. And I didn't think anything about it. I walked right past the truck, and I got about 20 yards past it, and I heard, "Your dog is cute." So I turned around, and I see that the truck driver is standing behind his truck, the tailgate, right by his tailgate, and I said, "Thank you." So I kept going, and I was going right past the church, and I heard, "What kind of dog is that?" And I said, I just turned quickly and said, "It's a Yorkie mix." And as I got almost to Lincoln Avenue, "Yeah, that's a cute dog." And I mean, nobody else was around. I can't think of a reason why anybody would do that. I walked right past the truck. The guy could have talked to me then. And it was very creepy, and I think that we have gone from political hand grenades to creepiness. I know who the guy is now. It didn't take me long to find out, and he needs to back off. I hope nothing happens to any of my dogs, because I'll know where to point the finger. And it's a shame that we have to address such a thing after we have done such fine work. And one thing that you said last meeting, Mr. Lutz, I wanted to tackle, and that was that the trip to Harrisburg was not about dog law, it was about spending money. The first bill that we had written had 17 signatures from 17 legislators co-sponsored that bill, including Republicans, DiGirolamo, Santasero. As soon as Frank Farry was elected, I called him up, and I said, "You're going to support us?" And he said he would. So we had bipartisan support for that bill. We worked very hard through the legislature. We worked across this state. This was not a rinky-dink operation. This was a serious move. And our trip to Harrisburg was a continuation of that. It was a privilege to address the legislature. This little borough of 10,000 people addressed a problem that many bigger municipalities wouldn't touch because it's not a politically correct issue. And that was a privilege. Borough officials had to be there because they represented the borough. I could not go there by myself and say, "Guess what, the borough supports me." They legitimized our standing. Mr. Salerno had to be there. He had to feel the legalese that was tossed at us, and besides which it falls to him to write the bill or to write the ordinance in this town. So he had to understand where he could go and where not to go. This was serious official business, and it was not to spend money. If I were the type of the person to dip into borough funds for the purpose of spending money, it would not be for a grueling trip to Harrisburg, I can tell you that. And what's left to us now is to circle the wagons. We'll do what we have to do for Bristol Borough. We'll get a leash law in place and enforce it, and just do what we have to do to make this town safe. Now, this is not a light issue, and I have an example of Philadelphia Magazine, and I'll have a copy of the article next week for everybody. But there's a couple in Haddonfield, New Jersey that owns, they're called Rhodesian Ridgebacks. They're very big dogs. They're mastiffs, sort of mastiffs. There have been 6 incidents in their community. These dogs have put their neighbors in the hospital. They've put their neighbors' dogs in the hospital. They tore a little girl's ear off. Fortunately, surgeons could reattach it. And these people that own these dogs have so far won every court battle to keep their dogs. So this is not a minor issue. This is a serious public safety issue, and we've worked very hard for it, and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything on this side of the room they want to speak about? That ends public participation. And Mr. Lutz.
A couple of things. Can somebody give us the status of the pile of dirt over by Bristol Steel Treaty?
I can't hear you, Jimmy.
There is a pile of dirt, Bristol Steel Treaty on Pine Grove Street. Status report on that dirt?
Dirt. You want to answer that, Jim, or?
Redevelopment Authority is overseeing the cleanup. There's some additional chemicals they've found in that dirt, and it's got to be treated in such a manner, and right now it's been decided to leave it there until additional funds are obtained to have it cleaned up.
Does it pose any threat to the neighborhood?
No.
Okay. The borough now owns that piece, right? We own that piece?
The borough has taken title to it, yes.
We assume responsibility for the grass and the weeds and things that are there.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't been done in a while. It needs to be done. It needs to be added to the list. And while you're adding to the list, I seem to have this problem every summer, but Harrison Street from Farragut Avenue to Radcliffe Street, there are people that actually cut through there. And there's all kind of trash and debris and high weeds, and but I have a borough crew go through there and clean that out. Angie's here. Angie, I got a couple of questions on the treasurer's report. Check number 4872, Carl Reiner, finished carpenter, was given $830 to fix bicycles. I assume that that's the police department's.
That is the police department's bicycles.
Do you have any idea what those bikes are worth? $900? And we just spent $830 to fix them?
To commission 3 or 4 bikes, commission them in missing parts of the area.
Mr. Dillon received a reimbursement, I assume, for prescription, $610.
It's $110 for prescriptions, Jim. $200 for his, $200 and $300, that's the car allowance and discretionary expense.
Oh, that's the expense
Every month.
every month. Do you have receipts for all those?
Yes.
Okay. I might like to see those. Garrett, equipment and landscape, shade trees, $5,000.
That's a trailer in the amount of $2,699. Mulch was $1,500, and the rest was just maintenance to ours.
Now, did we purchase any new trees?
I'm sorry?
Purchase new trees?
No.
Do we have an item in our budget for trees?
Aware of.
I'll check. Walt Schwartz, Inc., 319 Radcliffe Street. You got a check for $5,000. What was that for?
That's a reimbursement for escrow that he had posted.
Pardon?
What's the check? 4901, yes. He had to post escrow to do some jobs in the borough. And they're not our jobs, they're somebody else's.
What happens, a contractor
Inspections.
comes in, he has to post an escrow, because if he's opening the street or something, and if he follows all the rules and fixes it the way it's supposed to be fixed, we release their money back to them.
That's
If
fine.
they don't do it properly, then we keep their escrow and we go out and fix it.
That's fine. And BIU received a check for $7,210.
It's an April payment of $4,996.80 and March payment for $2,213.80.
So-
They're a little behind on their billing that was submitted.
So it's April plus March.
That's correct.
So that's all I have.
Angie, do you want to explain, last month, Mr. Lutz asked about check number, I'm looking for it, 4697, what it was for, he said it, so we could break that down too.
Who is it made out to? I don't have that information from
It
you.
was the check made out to Clark Equipment, check number 4344, in the amount of $8,344.
I can go and get the
Just
invoice.
for the record, it was something we voted on for lawnmowers, and
The purchase of a lawnmower.
purchased was, trying to get my gut in late.
Who's in our packet? Is this the one you're referring to?
Yeah, but I'd like to clear it up, Jimmy, because you throw out
Can I run and
numbers.
get the invoice and break it down? Because I'm not,
It was a
I don't have
memo
anything in
from
front of
you
me.
to Mr. Dillon.
It was for the angle broom, the sweeper, and the gutter brush. So just for the record, it wasn't for a lawnmower that we
no, it
spent
was for the,
$8,000 on. I want to clear that up. That was, you okay with that check? Because I know you said it was for a lawnmower or something for $8,000.
they're for the attachments for the equipment that we purchased
Right.
last year.
And I want to clear up one more thing, I don't know if it was clear. Can you, Mr. Dillon's prescriptions weren't $610, but even if they were, it's something that we...
He has to submit receipts.
But I'm
in order.
saying, even if they were, just like any other borough employee, there's a percentage of that we pay.
Right.
Because in our new plan, we elected to self-insure some of
Right.
our prescriptions and doctors and things
Right.
like that, which saving the borough maybe about $500,000
Right,
a
if
year.
prescription's $35, you would get reimbursed $10. Prescription's 20, you get 10, and 10, you get 5.
I mean,
And that's over,
I'm sure if we went through the
Months.
budget, there's more people in this borough that got more than $110 last month for prescriptions.
That's
But it
correct.
seems like we want to always try to embarrass certain people, and we want to question certain things that certain people do. Mr. Lutz, anything else?
The minutes from last month's meeting. Who did those? Who wrote those?
Which minutes? The meeting is done by Maria. I try to do my best on the work session agenda by not having Maria here and keeping the cost down.
June 14th. It seems as though a few things in the minutes were left out. I know at the end of the meeting, Mr. Dillon, you read a letter. I asked for copies, I still haven't gotten, but there's no mention of that letter in the minutes. Is there a reason why it's not here?
Minutes aren't verbatim of every utterance at a meeting, and I haven't sent those letters, so that's why those letters aren't out there, okay?
I'll tell you what we'd like to do, Ralph. The regular meeting, we approve minutes from various departments. I'd like to include the DVD of the film, actual film of the meeting as part of our minutes.
What, I'm sorry,
You want a copy of the,
No, I don't necessarily need a copy. I would like a copy to be filed with the borough, with the regular minutes of our DVD. The meeting is taped.
I understand what you're saying.
I just want that to be part of the official minutes. That's all.
We already do that.
Already being done.
That's great.
We're going to sell our, a box set like the greatest hits for 2009
Great.
and 10.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. What's the status on the borough yard? I went down there, I saw some equipment, but I didn't see anything being moved.
Mr. Danucci, we notified the DEP. We notified them that we will start on July 12th. The DEP's aware of that. All they're doing now is bringing equipment in, and they're just picking through a few things to get familiar with the site.
Is the fact that the same company is doing the school, is that going to have an effect?
No.
It's not.
They have enough equipment to handle 10 jobs.
Okay, I think that's all I have, Ralph.
Mrs. Collins?
I have a couple things. The tot lot at Trenton and Cleveland streets, I've been getting a lot of complaints about that there are older people in the lot, older than teenage age, and there's been some damage to cars in that area, kids throwing stones, teenagers throwing stones. Also, the parking lot adjacent to it, people park there at night, couples, that's all I'm going to say about that. And we want to try to get a better police presence there. Now, over the weekend, I did see a police officer back in there with a light and the whole nine, so I was happy to see that. So that one I'd like to check into. There's also some paraphernalia left in the morning there, a lot of items that are on the ground, and so there's evidence there that it's used as a motel. Okay. I also received a request for a line to be put at Trenton and Monroe where the stop sign was put in recently. There was one going the one way and one not going the other. We put that in, and they want to know if there can be a line there to let the people know that a stop sign's up ahead.
Lorraine, I just want to hold you up 1 second.
Go ahead.
Mr. Lutz, you requested a copy of the ordinance pertaining to that stop sign. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, in fact, I did receive a copy of that. I have it here somewhere. There was a stop sign facing Madison Street for years. There was never one on the other side of the street. And it was my understanding that maybe somebody just put those things, put that second one up at random. I mean, that corner had one stop sign for years.
Well,
Whenever that ordinance was adopted, and I have it here somewhere, whenever that was adopted...
I didn't understand the purpose or the reasoning behind...
Well, anytime you change a traffic pattern...
Right.
You tell me that the chief wants to do a study, or the planning commission, or whoever needs to do a
Right.
study. And I just saw the stop sign up there, so I wondered why it was there.
I didn't understand...
That stop sign should have been put up with the original stop sign. I don't know how many years ago that was passed.
Well, thank God we didn't have any problems there, and, it's there now.
I mean, whose idea was it to put that up on the other side?
I brought
Brought it up at the meeting.
Fine.
because of children crossing.
I didn't understand...
If it was in the ordinance, it just should have been put up.
Well, but it is now, so I think we're okay.
All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, also, just want to give an update on the lines on Jackson Street. They should be finished and put up by the end of July, I'm told by George Waldron. We've had a holiday weekend, some other things have come up, we've got a lot going on in town, but he's going to try to work on the lines on Jackson Street for parking that we had talked about. I also have, Angie, I love seeing your face here. You're beautiful, but I hate the idea that we have to pay you, and I'm sorry, it's no offense to you, because I know that, I can call you during the day and get any answers I need from you, and I really think we should bring that out, that we're wasting money by having you here. I'm sorry, no offense, like I say, no offense to you, but we have open access to everyone that works here. Talk to John, I talk to the chief, I can talk to anybody during the day, or I can call them at home. I mean, you know, I have your cell phone numbers if I need them. So I just feel that this is really a foolish waste of money. And I wanted to point that out. I'm sorry, but it really bothers me, and I really do like to see you.
I agree 100%. It's a waste of everybody's money. Everybody on this council calls you numerous times during the day, emails.
And you're forthcoming right away with
And
are
we-
the answers,
I
so
mean,
I
tonight-
don't see what the problem is.
Tonight, it's costing us 4 hours to have you here.
And I understand that you have
And
another
you
job.
don't want to be here. I
You
know
have
you don't.
another job.
It's not even
You
for
can
the
tell
money.
because her arms are folded like that, so you can
To answer 3 or 4 of Mr. Lutz's questions, I think you talk about wasteful
Could do during the
spending.
day like the rest of us, you know?
That's how you, that's
Why
how,
don't we do this, Ralph? You know, we get our packets on the Friday prior to the Monday night meeting. In that is the treasurer's report. So this weekend, I guess with the holiday, I didn't have very much time to look at it at all. But the point that I'm trying to make is, why can't we get that, if we got that a week before that?
Because it would be ready then. Why don't you call after?
Email over the weekend. I have access to my email here.
You do?
I can get my emails. So why not email me?
And he can do it after, like we do, after the meeting if we have a question.
Now, the last time I wrote down a request and submitted to Mr. Dillon, it took almost 2 months to get an answer.
I have a hard time believing
Yeah,
that.
that's correct, that, Jim.
It-
That
real
was the
hard time.
solicitor's invoices you requested,
I
correct?
requested.
You, correct? The solicitor had to go through 6 months' worth of billing to redact any information that was of a private nature or confidential nature. That's why it took so long.
I was interested-
You got the amounts, before, I mean,
and
you're
we
just
had to
harassing.
pay the solicitor to review all his documents to give you. Because there's things in there that shouldn't be.
He billed us, is that right, Bill? Did you bill us to go over that?
I don't know if I did, but I certainly would be entitled to. Why wouldn't
Oh,
I?
absolutely.
To justify your bill, I don't know.
We're paying Angie to be here for you.
Yeah,
Why
her here
should we
tonight,
pay
don't
him
she
for
get
working
paid?
for you?
You have Angie?
Absolutely.
So why shouldn't the
Why shouldn't
solicitor
we charge
charge?
him if he's doing your work?
He needs to justify his own bill.
I wasn't asked to justify my bill. You asked me, let me finish. You asked me on one occasion to tell you or tell council how much time I spent on a particular matter. I had to go through my bills and pull that time out. On another occasion, you asked for my bills from the beginning of the year. So I had to go through 6 months' worth of bills and make sure anything that shouldn't be public was crossed out, okay? Now, to be honest with you, I'm not sure I did charge. I'd have to go back, but if I did, I'd be entitled to because you're asking me for my time. You're not asking me to justify anything.
I wanted a copy of your invoices. Your invoices were in the possession of our business office.
That's right.
Angie had the invoices. All she had to do was make copy. You
Absolutely
didn't have to
not.
go out.
Absolutely not.
You didn't have to
Absolutely
No,
not.
it's illegal.
The
It's
law
illegal.
is very clear that those bills are not public records until I review them for confidential information. Any solicitor will tell you that.
All you had to do is black it out. If it's that confidential.
Well, don't I have to go through 6
if it's
months
that
of bills?
sensitive, then you block it out.
But
I was interested in dates and hours. I wasn't interested in content.
Well, the bills don't come that way. The bills come with information.
If the bill didn't come with information, you would say, well, what's he just putting hours down? So he justifies every hour and for what his time
That's
is,
not public information.
just like everybody does.
I'm not talking about litigation. I'm not talking about cases that you have before a judge somewhere. Those items, the item that I wanted had nothing to do with any litigation.
You're correct, Mr. Lutz. It's
How do you
public
know that?
documents after I go through them.
I'm not finished.
And nobody else has the authority to do
Are you telling
that.
me that if I go in there and ask for invoices, I can't get them?
Not my invoices.
I can't-
If I'm asked, is that a public document, my opinion will be no until I review them. And any solicitor will tell you the same thing.
That's fine.
I have
Mrs.
one more
Collins.
thing. I would be opposed to anyone knowing in the public what my bills are for my pharmacy, and I object to you asking that directly.
Yeah?
Yeah, you can ask that privately. Privately. HIPAA laws, there are strict HIPAA laws.
All right.
Don't even, go ahead.
We pay with public funds
I know we do.
his benefits.
I know we do.
And-
But there are
and if you
HIPAA
don't-
laws
if
now
you don't-
that you don't know
If you think
about, I
I'm going to
guess.
try to hide it or stuff
There's
it
no
under
need
the
to
carpet,
hide it. Nobody's
you
hiding
are- You're
anything.
terribly mistaken.
Nobody's hiding
I,
anything.
the
It's in the
man's
contract.
should reimburse
It's in the contract. Show the contract.
Fox News.
Don't show the actual
I-
amount that's spent on his medical a month. That's a disgrace.
It is?
It's great.
Yes. Show the contract that states it.
Mr. Musi, what do you have?
I got a couple things from Mr. Dillon. Jim, we got to get a hold of the engineer. There's some spots in the North Ward that are still puddling. One on 3rd Avenue by the Gallagher home, on 3rd and Green, 2nd and Green, and Mansion and Inlet. Now, I don't know how the engineers are going to solve this without having water there, or if they could get water there somehow. But this got to get done. This has gone too long. So can you get a date? I'll get my schedule. If I'm off.
What are the places, Anthony, the three that you know?
On 3rd Avenue, the alley between Beaver and 3rd. Gallagher's live there.
Okay.
On the side. There's puddling there. 3rd and Green Street, 2nd and Green Street, and Mansion Inlet. I've seen that once. To me, it's bad. I don't know what bad is. I'm not an engineer. So we need to get our engineers there. We need to take a ride. So email me, call me, any time of day and night you call me. Also, I'd like to commend George and his gang. The work started on the tot lots. They've begun on Spruce Street. They put a couple new pieces of equipment in, and as they're getting the equipment in, they're replacing it throughout town. And that's it. But please, we need to take care of these public problems.
Robin?
Mr. Dillon, I wonder if I could get an update on the intersection at Mill and Pond? On that, do we ever come to a conclusion on,
Bill and Old 13.
that's what I mean.
Let me get you an update on that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I actually forgot about it, Jim, sorry. Also, I'm going to ask council if they would consider, in our HARB regulations, the past council took out the colors regulations for the HARB district, and I just thought that, I think it would be beneficial to have it back in there. I don't know what council's thoughts are, but that's something that I would propose that we do. I spoke to the HARB board, and right now, you could paint your color, and paint your house in the HARB district, in the historic district, any color. Any color. So
I think years ago, they had a historic paint chart, like Finn and Hallie,
right.
or somebody had something to go by. I mean,
But the past council took that guideline out, that there is no regulation.
why don't they
on-
present, Billy, is that something we have to approve?
Yeah, we would have to change the ordinance.
Why don't you come up with a manufacturer that,
Oh, I didn't even want, just to be clear, I didn't want to suggest a color. I simply
no,
wanted...
like a company that gives you historical colors, because that's what you're going to have to do if you're going to say, you know, you don't have to buy this brand because everybody color matches today. But these are the historical colors that
Okay.
are acceptable. Tell them to come up with something.
Okay. I also think that we should give the $1,000 contribution. I think that it's the festivals in town are what brings everybody here. The people work very, very hard. The volunteers that put on these venues, it's a lot of work, and I think that we should definitely, out of the recreation budget, donate the $1,000. And I also thought that perhaps, and I don't know whether this is an ordinance, but the council should consider traffic calming, the guys that stand out there for all the festivals. I thought that perhaps we should strongly suggest, that when they do these venues, that they would be responsible to give a minor compensation to the organization itself, not from the borough, but from the people putting the venue on. Just an idea. They have no means of collecting any money for their uniforms and all, and I just thought that might be something we could kick around, but not for this year, because it's too close, but I think going forward, we might consider that. And Mr. Dillon, I'll pass on to you, and I'm sorry, I usually email, but I keep forgetting, those are 3 lights that are out in the West Ward, so when you get them in, and that's it.
Okay. I just have a couple things. One, I'm going to ask council again, we discussed this last year, to fund the movie night down at the Lions Park. It's a good event. A lot of borough children come out, and the amount is $650. So, again, it comes out of our recreation account. Last year, I forget how many hundreds of kids were down there. Chief, I know you're always down there. It's a great event, and so, council, I don't know, do we need that as an agenda item, or is it something we can, Mr. Dillon? It's under, can we just fund that?
I think you can fund it, but why not put it on?
Okay. Okay, put it on. As I stated earlier, the cleanup will start on July 12th at the Borough Yard. DEP's been notified, they'll be out periodically. They're saying 2-3 days a week they'll be on site, checking the site. We're in contact right now with Waste Management, trying to negotiate a deal for the borough to take the trash and everything at a special rate. Again, we don't know where these numbers are going to end up or how much this whole project's going to cost, but it's something that has to get done. I know the manager in George has been down there a few times already, taking pictures and seeing what's going on. The shredding event, everybody was interested in the shred that day. Angie came in, and Carol and Kevin Ever from the Street and Highway Department. What happened, Angie, why don't you explain that you guys showed? I wasn't here, so.
We're here, I think it was 9 o'clock, supposed to start.
Right.
And the guy, the shredding.
Excuse me, want to pass her that mic again? Take one off of one of them desks.
We're all here about 8:45, and the truck was supposed to be here by, 8:45, 9 o'clock, and they didn't come, so we had called, and it was hard to get a contact, because we had a phone number, nobody was answering, the company was closed, on a Saturday, so they finally called back, and they said that the truck broke down on the turnpike. So, and they said they didn't think they were going to make it out there. So what they had told us that they were going to give us a few hours free for the next
We scheduled it.
schedule, yeah.
I know Mr. Dillon wanted to know what mile marker, because he wanted to drive there to
I
see
thought
if
that
the
was
truck-
Angie that was going to go pull that truck off the turnpike.
Again, we apologize to the borough residents that showed up, but I'm thinking we will reschedule for September. It'll be cooler out, and we'll pick a day that we can do this again. Again, I just want to go back to a statement that Mr. Lutz made on the road program maintenance. I don't know, Mr. Lutz, if you read the letter from Gilmore pertaining to the roads, how it works. There was an 18-month warranty on all labor and material. There was a bid bond put up, and the 15% of the bid bond, which was $298,087.14, and basically we have 18 months. So if anybody's aware of any problems with the roads or anything, we need to get this resolved, and the warranties on workmanship and material. So I don't want to sit here next year and somebody says, well, this road's coming apart, or this is wrong. I mean, we are holding, close to $300,000 of this contractor's money, so before it's released, we need to discuss it. But when you asked about a warranty, that is the warranty, so I hope you're happy with that. There's something that I've been getting complaints about, and I know it's Mrs. Trinnell and Mrs. Rodriguez's ward, and I didn't get a chance to talk to you about it, but
Go in my ward.
there's an issue with this parking on Rackler Street. There's people that have a sticker that is allowed to park there without, I guess, contributing to the meter. Is that how it works, Mr. Salerno? And I don't have a problem with this as a resident and a taxpayer that lives here, but I do have a problem with somebody that owns an office on Rackler Street that could put a sticker on their car and park anywhere they want for free. When people on Mill Street that own stores don't have that same right to buy a sticker and put it on their car. So I don't know what the intention of this was going back years ago when this started and how this whole process started, but I really like to look into it and come up with a solution that's fair. Either eliminate this sticker for all businesses throughout the town or Rockler Street and only allow homeowners that can use this. I guess it's a red sticker they put on their dashboard to let the parking enforcer know. And again, I don't want to overstep
No,
my
we talked
my
about this.
boundary
I'm in
because we did
agreement.
talk about it, but
Yep.
I don't believe somebody that owns a business should park for $10 a year free. I mean, if you own a business and you want a sticker, then maybe we need to charge you $50 or $100 a month so that it's worth it then for you to park there. But again, it don't have to be discussed tonight. I want to throw it out there, and I'd like to maybe form a committee. Robin, I know it's your award, so I'd like you to be on it. A couple other people. Lorraine, you interested?
Well, you know, too, we've got a huge parking lot. I think that's the other thing.
Right,
is that
we
it's
have-
not as if we don't have
I mean, we're
parking.
trying-
You're going to be in your office all day long, so park the car in the parking lot.
We're trying to
and walk
leave
out.
parking spaces for business, for people to come in, and I don't think it's right. And again, it's not for a resident. If you own your home there, I don't even care if you park there, we don't even need your $10. But if you own a business, I think it should be $50 or $100 a month for you to park there. If that's what the premium you want to valet park in front of your office and walk in, then I think you should pay the price to do that. The last thing is I want to get together with,
Excuse me, just a
I'm
minute.
sorry.
Well, then that committee ought to consider, while you're talking about parking on Rackler Street, the Presbyterian Church that was, I won't say closed, but
it's
no longer in
closed.
It was
operation.
closed.
It's closed.
People just stopped praying, Jimmy. People stopped praying.
Out there for
There
sale.
is, there's a yellow line, it must be 30, 40 feet long.
Which we
and
gotta
Nobody
get-
parks there.
Right.
Now, we either need to get rid of that yellow line, or put meters in, or let people
Right.
park there, because there's no 3 or 4
The
spots.
manager's already working on it. We're working on all the meters that are missing, the meters that are broke, and the yellow lines. Last time we used Freddie Venturino to go out and sandblast the yellow off, so the managers, once him and George comes up with a plan, he will be contacted and he'll go out and remove he'll sandblast all that yellow off and it'll be a natural curb again.
That's fine.
I like to get together with the mayor and, again, a couple people and review the fire chief and the 2 assistants to see if we want to proceed or we want to change some positions around. I think it's 2 or 3 years now that we have appointed these people, and they do an excellent job, but there's a lot of other people that are asking to give them an opportunity to serve in this capacity. I don't know if we want to change the chief per se. I think Herbie does a great job, but Mayor, I like maybe me and you to sit down and discuss it, and for August, come up with maybe either we'll keep the 3 people, or we'll come up with changing 2 of them, or changing 1 of them, and maybe every year rotate. Maybe if there's 3, we change 1 now, change 1 next year, so we're always giving people an opportunity to serve in that capacity. That's about all I have. Bob, you have anything, or?
Just, I would like in the future, instead of bringing complaints to a council meeting, I would like council to come to me first, or the chief, before bringing it up at a council meeting. Because it looks like we're not doing our job. And believe me, we are trying to do our job. I don't think complaints like that should be brought into the public. I think that it should be brought up to the chief and I, and let us handle it. And then if you don't get satisfaction that way, then bring it up. And it means we're not doing our job. But the couple complaints that Mrs. Cullen brought up, I wish she would have contacted me.
I didn't,
I would've
you're
got
right, I
on it
didn't
right away.
contact you, but I have been in contact with, others, and I know it's been passed on to the police chief, so I I didn't contact you, though.
I
This is an ongoing issue here. It just didn't start this week, you know what I mean?
I understand.
It's been years of, and a lot of phone calls and a lot of, to the police department. We really need, what I asked for, we need a police presence there. I mean, it's bad.
I understand it.
I think what happened is, since I've been here, and I'm sure way before I got here, it's always been the procedure to have the chief speak, and then anybody had any questions or any problems, they would notify the chief at the meeting. I do like the fact that we don't air our laundry in public.
Right.
When there's issues of problems on certain streets, because there are people on them streets really that aren't happy that their street gets mentioned on TV and stuff like that also. So I think I agree with the mayor, maybe we should try from now till the end of the year, if we have any issues with anything, to email the mayor and the chief, or call the mayor and the chief.
Sure.
And let's not bring it up publicly, but again, if that's what
No.
council chooses to, there's no way I can
Okay.
not do that. But I think that's a good policy that we should.
Excuse me, what's the line?
Yeah.
I don't know. What can you ask and what can't you ask?
Well, you can ask anything you want. I think what the mayor's saying is, if we're having a problem, say with a tot lot in Harriman, that there's something going on, it's probably easier to catch these people by not publicly bringing it up than bringing it up publicly, and then they know we're watching it. I think we try it that way, and Chief, I mean, you have any input on this, or?
That's a good way to handle it.
I thought maybe it would discourage them from hanging out there.
And that's the other
You know,
problem.
and that is why, part of the reason why I brought up. The other is...
The other issue is...
The amount of calls and the amount of complaints
And you
are
want people to know that you're doing your job.
unbelievable. I mean,
That's the problem we run into when somebody gives you a complaint and they say, well, why didn't you bring it up at the meeting?
This makes me look like I'm out of the loop.
well, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to do
Appreciate
that.
that, because, the town did elect me as mayor, and I feel that I can do the job. If I'm aware of problems in the town, I can do the job. Contacting me and the chief first, rather than bring it up to a public meeting like this, I think is...
But that's how it
uncalled
always
for.
was done, though, Bob. It was
Yeah, I
never
mean, even
done.
stop signs
I think if
and near
you
the ball
wanted,
field.
if you
I mean, every
wanted us
month
to
it's
handle that
something.
different, maybe you
Stuff like
should
that,
have.
but,
Yeah, and we weren't aware that you wanted us to come to you either, like...
You don't know whether or not we have anybody watching them areas to catch the people. I'd
Well,
rather
I
catch 'em-
do now
I'd rather catch them,
because
because if you mention it in public, they're going to go from one area and go to another area.
Well, you know what,
Okay, so
at this
I'd rather catch
point,
them in the act.
it's really bad to be around a tot lot with what they're doing. I mean,
Oh.
I would like them to go elsewhere, to a motel,
So would I.
really.
All right, Mr. Dillon, what do you have?
As part of the council's agenda for next Monday night, it's recommended that council consider authorizing Langen Engineers to file a grant application with the county for funds to implement the master waterfront plan. As part of the county open space funding, the borough is entitled to approximately $324,000. That's part of the reason that you were required to do the open space plan update that was discussed this evening, and that, council's been working on for the last 6 months. But also, as part of the county's funding, there's $7 million over a 10-year period for the set aside for riverfront communities, of which the borough certainly is probably one of the prime communities where you have the public access to the river. So it's recommended that council authorize Langen Engineer to file the grant application with the county for additional funds to implement the master waterfront plan. So that'll be on the agenda. We have John Miller here tonight to discuss, consider authorizing advertisement of an ordinance amending Chapter 11, Section 108, which deals with the interim inspection of dwellings. from 90 days to 1 year, so possibly John can explain what he's run into.
John, I apologize for making you wait this long. You just look so good. You blended in and I just didn't realize.
Mr. Dillon and I had met with some concerned landlords and property managers in town here in regards to the change of tenant inspections. Currently, the ordinance reads that once the biannual inspection is completed, if a tenant change occurs within 90 days of the past biannual inspection, there's no charge for the landlord to move someone in. They just have to supply an affidavit to us stating that the smoke and carbon monoxide detectors are installed in working order. After 90 days, it's a $75 charge to do an inspection, a change in tenant inspection. We kind of came up with a plan where we would probably extend that to 1 year, the change of tenant inspection. In other words, once they had the biannual inspection completed and passed, if they had any change in tenants within a 1 year period in that particular unit, there would be no charge. The landlord would be required to submit the paperwork documenting smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors are in proper working order. We cut down a lot of headaches, cut down a lot of paperwork. We kind of free our time up a little bit more, because at the end of the month we get slammed pretty hard on changing tenant inspections.
John, let me ask you a question. I own property, and I'm sure other people sitting here owns property. I don't have a problem paying the $75 on re-inspections, and I don't have a problem paying the $100 every 2 years. I think it's good. It keeps honest people honest, and if you have a bad tenant and they move out, you get a chance to go in and see this property was beat up, and you end up having the landlord fix it up again. Stretching it out to a year, I don't have a problem with that either. What happens on the 11th or 12th month, right before there's a change of tenant? And I own a property and my inspection's due, say, December 31st. It would have ran out. And on December 25th, I move somebody in. So now do I go another year waiting for my inspection, or?
No, that would just cover the change of tenant inspection. The date of the biannual inspection?
No, that's not due for, it's every 2 years.
Right, every 2 years.
So I'm saying, I'm in my first, I just had it inspected today.
Okay,
Now, we go from July, today's the 6th. For 1 year, I have an opportunity to have anybody move in or out. Okay? July 1st of 2011, I move a new tenant in.
okay.
Okay, it's almost 1 year. I still don't have another inspection due till July of 12.
That's correct.
Correct?
That's correct.
So you're saying if I move that person in, I don't have to have my apartment re-inspected?
Right, you're correct.
But now if somebody moves out 3 months later, and now we're in September, October, I have to get an inspection.
That's correct.
Because it's over the year.
Right.
Does my annual inspection now start from their 2 years?
No.
So I'm going to inspect it and then inspect it again
In 7 months.
Conceivably, yes.
within maybe 3 months.
That's correct, because the registration fee doesn't change. You're still going to be required to pay that registration fee every 2 years.
We're not going to hear complaints from somebody saying, well, wait a minute, I just paid $75, now they're going to charge me $100 2 months later to inspect it, or we're going to establish a new date.
That's up to you, however the council...
It's something to think about.
I mean, there's pros and cons on both sides of that.
Right.
Record keeping wise, it's easy if you just keep the date of the initial biannual inspection the same. The property owner's getting a break by, they're having a year grace period for not having to pay the $75.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a lot of...
That's something I think you should look at, because if I inspect my property on the 23rd month, and then I'm going to inspect it on the 24th month, or the 20th month, I'm going to inspect it 4 months later, I'm going to say, why are you just were out. So the whole thing changes the scope by doing this.
Right.
The other question I have is that is the landlord, me as a landlord, and my agent going to be responsible for this affidavit by saying the carbon monoxide's in good working condition, the smoke detectors work,
That's correct.
the stove works? So if there are any issues, because right now, we take that liability on.
That's correct.
When you go out and you test everything, the electric's fine, and the ground fault receptacles, all this stuff, everybody thinks you just go out and look. You actually do an inspection.
That's correct.
And by doing that, the borough assumes some liability.
That's correct.
I mean, the next day, they could unplug the smoke detector,
Right.
pull out a carbon monoxide, but on that day, you made sure everything was in good working condition.
That's correct.
Windows open properly and closed. Is the landlord and the agent going to sign this affidavit and take responsibility saying, on this day, everything was, we'll give them a checklist. Everything was in, they checked everything, and they're both going to sign off that it was in working condition.
I believe they should.
Mr. Salerno, is that?
Yeah, what I'm hearing is you're kind of, if it falls within that year, you're going to let the landlord and the agent kind of do a self-inspection. We're going to trust them to do that, and they're representing that they're going to put a new tenant in there without us coming out there.
That's correct.
And so in addition to saving the borough the time to have to do the inspection, the landlord owner's also saving the fee, but understanding that at least every 2 years, they're going to get inspected.
That's correct.
At least. But, so we're extending the courtesy from 90 days to 1 year, but they have to sign an affidavit. They kind of did a checklist, and they're representing to us, they didn't see anything.
That's correct.
Okay, so we're kind of putting some trust into the landlord in order to cut them a break on the fees.
That's correct.
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I think that if you rent your property yourself, then it should be signed by you as the owner. If you have being represented by an agent, then I think the owner and the agent needs to sign that, because most of the time, we get calls from the agent, not the owner, correct?
That's correct.
The agent always calls and says, "John, I have a tenant moving in." I don't want to take that responsibility off the agent. I want his signature on a piece of paper saying, so a month after this tenant is in, they come back to the borough and say, my electric doesn't work, my stove doesn't work, I don't know smoke alarms that operate, or God forbid, you find people dead from carbon monoxide. We want, because somebody to take this I don't have a problem doing it. We're not looking to just go out and take money and say everybody's worrying about this $75.
Right.
So that's fine. They want to eliminate it. I don't have a problem with it, and we'll see how council feels. But I want somebody's signature that you sign off, because the borough sends the agent and the owner a certificate saying this property passed inspection.
Right.
So that means this borough took responsibility and liability for that $75. So if we're going to do it, we want to make sure that
Absolutely, absolutely.
somebody's taking responsibility, because my job and this council's job is to protect the people that rent, not the landlord or the agent that's renting it. And I do rent property, so, I don't have a problem with you inspecting my property any day of the week without notice. Mr. Lutz?
Yeah, I think John's on the right track. The way it's set up now, it's very possible. I mean, the inspection should be every 2 years. If you get a change of tenants during tenancy during the course of that 2 years, you could very well have to get your home inspected every year. You'll have 3 inspections by the time that new one comes around. I think the confusing part here is I don't think we need we're inspecting the property. We're not necessarily inspecting the tenants. The tenants, I don't know that we should be that concerned about. We're concerned about the house. We're concerned that it meets code. I don't know if it makes a difference who lives in it.
I don't know what you mean. It doesn't.
Listen, if I sell you my car, and my inspection is good till next June,
You would never buy
you don't have to get that car inspected, right?
He would buy this car.
No.
He would buy that car.
You don't have to get the car
Right.
inspected. So,
We were talking about a car.
same thing.
It's the same thing, a car in somebody's life, a baby's life, that might be sleeping in an attic.
No, don't twist it, we're talking about a
I'm
house.
not twisting it, I'm just talking,
We're talking about a house. A house has to have smoke detectors and carbon monoxide.
and how about when a house is overoccupied and there's kids sleeping in a basement or in an attic?
What do you mean?
That doesn't count? We're not supposed to...
You fail to understand this.
No, you fail to understand what it's all
You're
about.
inspecting...
Because of
the
your
house.
properties. Not, go look at your properties. Go look at Spector's on Mill Street.
Mine are long-
The awning's ready to fall
Mine
down.
are all inspected.
Yeah. You should look at your properties. That's why Mill Street looks that way. You sit here and pass laws, you don't even fix your own place
You
up.
asked me for my opinion, I gave it to
Well,
you.
your opinion stinks, that you're not concerned about the tenant that lives in that property.
You're concerned about the property.
Well, I'm concerned about the people that live in there and the safety for them people. Because we're their voice. This council represents the people that live in there. When they go vote for you, you don't say, let the owner vote for you that lives in Yardley, do you? Or he lives in Lower Makefield. You go knock on that door, and they're the people that you gotta protect.
Full enough.
Now, you wanna move on. Go fix your awning on Mill Street.
You're not making any,
Make it look better.
you're not making any sense, though.
Anybody else have any questions?
I want to comment a little, Mike, I think my concern, John, is during that period, conceivably, there could be 2 or 3 different tenants. And again, I see when people move out, they take banisters down so they can move the bed down. And I'll be quite frank, I'm concerned about leaving our liability up to maybe the honesty of some real estate agents or owners of property. So, you know me, I always err on the side, but I always butt head about these things.
You know the problem I have with this whole thing is, we're talking about people getting $900, $850, $1,100 a month, and they're worrying about a $75 bill. I mean, you talk about cheap. I mean, for the service we provide, you have to go out, do an inspection, 90% of the times go back and do a re-inspection. Then your secretaries have to type up the reports, send notices, mailing because people don't respond, maintain records, take on a liability for $75, and they still complain. The people that complain, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't own properties. It's the price of doing business. You want to own, if it wasn't for us, this town we would have lost because of the amount of rentals and the amount of slum landlords that were renting these properties. And I started 9 years ago when I got elected to this council, and I'm never going to stop making sure properties in this town look good and protecting the people that live in them. Because some of these people can't fight for themselves. They have a landlord that says, if you complain to the borough, we're going to throw you out. And it happens with people sitting here, too. I don't have anything. John, I think we need to meet on this. You want to formal, the manager, the solicitor, a couple people, and we'll come up with, believe me, I agree if you want to move it yearly, but we need to have some kind of accountability on it. We went too far to change this now and say, we're going to give it back to the landlord who doesn't care if the property's maintained, like Robin said, windows get taken out, banisters get taken, smoke detectors get knocked off. They're going to go in and say, okay, we're still catching people on Sundays, moving people out and new people in. Because they're so cheap that they can't call and spend $75 for a reinspection.
And what the owner and the real estate agent manager is going to say, oh, the smoke detector was up the day that I was there, and then I signed the affidavit. You know what I mean? I think that the landlords in this town have fought, like Ralph said, have fought us tooth and nail. And it's almost like we've weathered the storm with them. They've never had they balked about the registration fee and the inspections
And then you have people on the 2 years that had a tenant for 2 years that we have to fight maybe 6 or 7 months before they even get us into the property. So now we're like 2.5 years, almost 3 years before we're done the inspection. So it's an ongoing battle. I know you're winning the battle because I know how hard you work every day to get this job done, and I respect that. I mean, some of the properties, you went in, I wouldn't walk in. That's how dirty and roach infested they were. So, but you cleaned a lot of, you did a hell of a job in this town, and I commend you for that, and Rory. But I don't know if I'm ready to surrender to somebody for $75 a year. That's just my opinion.
And remember, this council already made a concession by going from 1 year to 2 years.
Right?
Right.
So, and the original purpose of the rental inspection ordinance was not to wait until there was a change of ownership, but have an inspection on a change of tenants, because tenants were not being protected. And I think this all started when there was a fire, and John had to go into a property after a fire, and it was in deplorable shape, and he asked the woman, how come she never complained? She says, if I complained, I would have been kicked out. And she lived in those conditions for like 8 or 10 years. So that's why this council adopted the ordinance, and we did loosen up after we inspected all the properties at least once or twice, and, you know, I think this council will be well within its right to stick to its guns if it elected to do so.
So maybe over July, August, September, we can really sit down and have some meetings about this and come up with a plan. I mean, again, if that's what, you know, but we need to make sure we're doing it the right way. I mean, you know how hard you worked, and we don't want to, we're on top of everything. We don't want to go backwards.
I agree.
Have anything else?
Well, I'll table that. That matter won't be on the agenda then at this time. Next item is consider adopting the ordinance amending the codified ordinance dealing with parks and recreation, general rules and regulations. This deals with the tot lots in Jefferson Avenue complex. The matters, I believe the chief reviewed the proposed ordinance today, and he feels it'll be helpful. So that's ready for your consideration next Monday evening. The next item is consider authorizing advertisement of an ordinance regarding joint sewer laterals, sanitary sewer laterals. An issue has come up with the authority, and our solicitor has reviewed it, and it's recommended that you authorize the advertisement of an ordinance regarding joint sanitary sewer laterals. I don't know if you want a further explanation. Bill can probably handle that.
Explain that, Mr. Solano.
Yes, this issue was raised with the our sewer authority. The ordinance basically provides that there should not be shared laterals. We do have some left in the Harriman area. Sometimes they're hard to discover. The practice has been, even though it's not in the ordinance, is when it is discovered and someone wants to sell one half of the house, that they're required to put in a new sewer line, which could cost $10,000 or $12,000 to the benefit of their neighbor. We were recently challenged on that by a seller, and after discussing this with the inspector and the borough manager and the authority members, it was the feeling that maybe the borough shouldn't be involved in this because the shared laterals are not a problem in themselves. And rather than us enforce it, we basically require that if they're going to change the laterals, they have to be repaired. At that point, we're going to require that they be split. But other than that, the borough would not be involved in enforcing that. It'd basically be between the two owners. So the ordinance would just make clear that we're going to kind of stay out of it unless you're otherwise going to fix the sewer lateral.
Any other comments? Mr. Dillon, you have anything?
No, that's it. Items 6 and 7, I think we've already touched on.
Anything?
Public.
Anybody else before we adjourn? Anybody in the public? Rosie and Karen will have, Robin will have that on the agenda for Monday evening and finish this. Motion to adjourn?